Chapter 9. Penny provides a clue. Upon her way home after leaving Louise at the Seidel residence, Penny decided to drop in at the office of the Riverview Star, there to talk with her father. Anthony B. Parker was a distinguished-looking gentleman, tall and athletically slim, slightly gray at the temples. As his daughter entered the private office, he smiled a welcome. "You seem in a good mood this bright morning," said Penny. "I take it you've just managed to swipe your competitor's best advertisement account." "Nothing like that," replied Mr. Parker. "Can't a father be glad to see his daughter? To tell you the truth, I was beginning to think you might have had trouble on the road. Lena behaved herself for once, but plenty happened to me. Did you get your friend safely installed in her new job?" "Installed at any rate. I'm not so sure about the safe part." "Why? What do you mean, Penny?" "The Comstocks seem to have an unsavory reputation at White Falls, Dad. And that house where Laura's staying is a huge barn with more paintings than an art gallery." "Does that necessarily make it an unsafe place?" inquired Mr. Parker, smiling. "Well, one of the portraits has a habit of rolling its eyes." "What nonsense are you talking about, Penny?" her father demanded with a hint of impatience. "I didn't exactly see the eyes move," she admitted. "Laura thought she did. But that's beside the point. According to the rumor, a man disappeared in the Comstock house and was seen no more." "Are you feeling well this morning, Penny?" Mr. Parker inquired anxiously. "My mind isn't the least bit touched, Dad. I acquired considerable information down at White Falls. Would you like to hear about it?" Without waiting for his assent, she rapidly related the facts which she had learned from Lem Varn, the cafe man. "The man may have a feud with the Comstock family," Mr. Parker commented when he had heard the story. "Gossip is never a reliable source of information." "I realize that, Dad, but the Comstocks acted queerly about having Laura in the house. It's nonsense that a man could disappear from a small community and no questions be asked. He was supposed to be a stranger. Even so, if anything such as you suggested occurred, the news would have leaked out to the police. White Falls is too small to have a force. I'm afraid there's nothing to the story, Penny." "Well, for Laura's sake, I hope so," Penny sighed. Abruptly, she changed the subject. "Dad, if someone had stolen your houseboat, how would you go about recovering it?" "Since when did I acquire a houseboat?" "A hypothetical one," said Penny. "You see, I'm thinking of going into the detective business again. Someone stole Mudcat Joe's boat, and I promised to help him find it." "Who's Mudcat Joe?" inquired Mr. Parker. "Penny, why don't you learn to begin your news stories with the who, when, where, why, and how leads? Then I might have some idea of what you're talking about." "Oh, it takes so long to explain all the details," Penny sighed. "Well, settle back in your chair, Dad, because it's a lengthy tale." However, before she could start to recount her experiences with the squatter family, an office boy came in to tell Mr. Parker that a man by the name of Frank Hammond wished to see him. "Hammond?" repeated Mr. Parker thoughtfully. "I don't know anyone by that name." "Well, send him in." "I suppose that's my cue to evaporate," Penny said, getting up from her chair. "No, stay, if you wish. If the man is here to see me about anything important, I can send you out." "That's just when I'd like to stay," Penny declared. "Maybe I could hide behind the filing cabinet." "You're not a character in a melodrama," her father smiled. "Please stay right here where you are." The door opened, and a middle-aged man in a brown suit, who walked with a quick, energetic stride, came into the room. Mr. Parker arose to shake hands, and after introducing himself to Penny, offered a comfortable leather chair reserved for his visitor. "Well, what may I do for you?" he inquired as Mr. Harmon hesitated. "You don't mind my daughter being here?" No, not at all. I represent the McClure & Allison firm in Chicago." You may have heard of us." "Oh, yes." Mr. Parker instantly recognized the name of a well-known jewelry concern. Interest deepened the color of his eyes. "I came here upon a rather strange mission," the man continued. "Do you recall a certain story about our firm which ran in your paper perhaps 10 days ago? It was to the effect that one of our officers of our company had disappeared with a considerable amount of valuable jewels in his possession." "Let me see. Yes, I remember the story. Man by the name of Merriman, wasn't it?" "Yes, J.D. Merriman." Penny leaned forward in her chair, startled by the name, but she did not interrupt. "At first, we were inclined to believe that Mr. Merriman had been delayed on his trip from New York," went on the visitor. "He was traveling by motor, combining business with pleasure. Then later, when we became alarmed and tried to trace him, all we could learn was that he was last seen at a filling station about 200 miles from here." "That was in the story, I believe," Mr. Parker commented. "It was assumed by company officials that Merriman had stolen the jewels." The man who talked with the reporter over long-distance telephone never should have given out such a statement, frowned Mr. Hammond. "Merriman was a close friend of mine. He was highly respected in the firm." "Then you believe that he did not steal the jewels?" "James Merriman wasn't the type of man to resort to theft. He was well fixed financially and had a wife and 2 small children. Often he carried more valuables with him than upon this occasion." "Then it is your thought that he met with foul play?" "Either that or an accident," said Mr. Harmon earnestly. "Merriman was a rather careless driver." "What quantity of jewels did your friend carry on his person?" "The firm estimated that the loss of approximately $15,000. The greater part of this is represented by a pearl necklace. Merriman was bringing it from New York to a special customer of ours." "The loss was covered by insurance?" "Yes. We're not worried upon that account. Our fear concerns James Merriman. Now, my purpose in coming to you was this. Since he disappeared somewhere in this state, or so we believe, we thought your paper might be able to aid us in the search." "We'll give you every possible cooperation," promised Mr. Parker. "However, I should suggest that you engage a detective. We turned the case over to the Pullman White Agency several days ago. However, so far they have made no progress." "Have you talked with the police, I suppose?" "Yes, but they told the theory that James Merriman yielded to temptation and stole the jewels. The insurance company is working on this angle too, keeping watch on various places where the jewels might be offered for sale." "I will be glad to give you any possible assistance," Mr. Parker repeated. "However, I don't see just what our paper can do. I am willing to assign a special reporter to the story for a few days." "Our firm will appreciate your cooperation," Mr. Harmon declared warmly, picking up his hat. "Thank you for giving me so much of your time." "Just a minute, please," Penny interposed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I think perhaps I have a clue which might help you." Both Mr. Harmon and Mr. Parker turned in astonishment towards the girl. "Did you say that your friend's initials were J.D.? "Yes, that's correct," Mr. Harmon declared eagerly. "I happen to know that a J.D. Merriman spent the night at a tourist hotel in White Falls. The man registered from Chicago." "Then that must have been James Merriman," exclaimed Mr. Harmon. "Where is White Falls?" "Not far from here, along the Cobalt River," Penny explained. "The tourist house is run by a Mr. and Mrs. Comstock and is called the Old Mansion." "Penny, how do you know that Merriman stayed there?" questioned her father. "Because I saw his name on the register." "I shall drive to White Falls at once and talk with the Comstocks," Mr. Harmon declared. "Thank you very much for your clue, Miss Parker." "You might telephone us a report what success you have," suggested Mr. Parker. "I certainly shall," Mr. Harmon agreed. You may expect a call from me not later than tomorrow morning. If anything important develops, I'll telephone earlier." Mr. Parker walked to the door with the visitor, shaking hands with him as they parted. Returning to the desk, he saw that Penny had crossed over to the window and was staring down on the street. "Dad," she said quietly, "I didn't give Mr. Harmon quite all the information. When James Merriman spent the night at the old mansion, he was assigned to room 7. The room, according to Lamvar, where a man mysteriously disappeared. Do, 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 do.